tortillas. Now mine are a little bit not traditional, because traditional tortillas, for its riser, it has baking powder. I actually use yeast. Now I have made several different kinds. I've made all sourdough, which I will put the link to the recipe I use. I didn't make the recipe for the sourdough ones. I will put that in the description. But the one that I do a hybrid of a little sourdough starter and yeast, but this works just as well with just yeast. So if you're not one of my sourdough friends, just ignore the sourdough part. So the recipe calls for 420 grams all-purpose flour. You can use other flour. You can use wheat. I like to mix it sometimes with einkorn wheat. You could do gluten-free flour. I have not tried those, but I'm sure it would work. But if you've never made tortillas before, start with just the all-purpose flour. Get a feel for how it works first. So in this bowl, I have 420 grams of all-purpose flour, 11 grams of salt. One of my secret ingredients is garlic powder, and I use a very fine milled garlic powder, but I put 5 to 10 grams. I put 6 grams in there today. You will want to have 160 grams of warm water. Now, it says 60 grams of olive or avocado oil. That is optional. So if you are on a diet, a little bit of calorie restriction, you might want to leave the oil out. It's totally up to you. I like to put the oil in. They're very tasty, but they are good either way. Last week I made them without oil because I honestly forgot to put the oil in. And then if you want to do a hybrid, I put about 50 grams of sourdough starter, but if you're doing fully sourdough, it's 210 grams. But again, that recipe will be in the description. And then I do 8 grams of yeast, which is roughly 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. You don't have to be exact, okay? So I put all the dry ingredients, and then you do want to proof the yeast first. And my water was a little bit warm, so I haven't started proofing it yet. So I'm gonna get that proofed, and then we'll get started. Okay, my yeast has proofed a little. As long as it gets a little bubbly, you're good. You don't have to wait until it gets huge. But I always like to proof it first because sometimes yeast dies. So you have to make sure that it hasn't. Get something. All right, just gonna make sure that my salt, my flour, and my garlic powder are well mixed. So I have my mixer with my dough hook, which took me forever to find because Michael put it in the wrong drawer. Maybe he won't watch this video, but if he does, you put it in the wrong drawer. All right, it's very stressful when I couldn't find it. All right, so let me get my sourdough because you know I'm gonna put some in there. So all I do to my dry ingredients, I just pour in the yeast mixture. I'm gonna do avocado oil today. I had a rough day, and so I made some avocado oil. And then I am going to put 50 grams. Notice I'm not measuring. It doesn't matter because I have it, the flour and water ratio is even, so it doesn't matter how much I put in. I'm gonna say that's about 50 grams. Again, you don't have to do the sourdough. I just wanted to. Okay, so now we're going to mix it. I do want to show you something because it happens sometimes, it doesn't other. Maybe it's because I put the sourdough starter in, but sometimes I have to add more water. And remember, I am at a higher elevation. I don't know if that makes a difference with water content, but it's still pretty dry. The goal to tortillas is you want it to form a ball and just be wet enough that it forms that ball, but it doesn't get sticky. So you have to kind of play with that. And I'm sorry, I don't have the exact measurements of water because the 160 this time just did not cut it. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. I've probably added 2 tablespoons so far. It's almost coming together. And when let me stop it and show you. When it's almost coming together, you want to be really careful. So notice there's some dry in the bottom. Sometimes that's when I'll just take my hands And I will just start doing this until all the little dry bits are actually in the dough, and then put it back and let it knead. I do like to knead it for about 2 minutes. I don't think I put that on the instructions, but hey, knead it for about 2 minutes, or when it forms a ball, but you don't want it to become sticky. Feel like it needs just a tad. Nope, there it goes. So don't add water too soon, because sometimes it will finally form that ball and be good. Again, we'll let that go for about 2 minutes. Let's be real, I didn't time 2 minutes. I'm terrible, okay? But I saw, and this is what you want to see, your bowl is clean. That's what's gonna make the good tortilla. So now I have this, and I'm just gonna form it into a nice cohesive ball. Again, notice, nothing sticking to my hands. If it's sticking to your hands, you've got to add more flour. You have somehow put too much liquid in. So, you know, if your tortillas don't turn out the first time, that's okay. I'm sure they will, but just, that's what you want. So now I'm gonna put it in the bowl, and sometimes I put just a little oil because I'm gonna put this on a heating pad. So sometimes if I don't put oil, it starts to cook. And then I'm gonna put its little bonnet on, and then I am going to put it over on the heating pad. And it is now 4 o'clock. Okay, it took me a little bit longer to get my life together today. So I'm just gonna let that rise for an hour. I usually cook dinner about 5 o'clock. So I'll see you back at 5 o'clock when I make the tortillas. And they're gonna be good. And I'm gonna eat all of them because that's the kind of day I had. I need some tortillas. Okay, it is time to make the tortillas. And I told you it was gonna be about an hour. Dog walks took a little bit longer. So this was almost 2 hours, but it was this big at about an hour. So an hour to 2 hours. And then it's nice and big, and then just dump it. See how nice and clean it dumped out? So you want it to do that. So I am going to put it into a ball again. And of course, I forgot something that I need. So this much dough makes about 16 tortillas. And I usually cut it in half and just make half on one day, and then I make the other half the next day. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this in half, form this second one into a nice ball, and put it in the refrigerator. Have tortillas tomorrow. All right. So just form your dough into a ball, and you'll want to cut into 8 even pieces. And I just do that by continuing to cut it in half and form the ball. This is also good for helping relax the gluten a little bit. I form it into a ball before cutting them in half because otherwise they're not as even. And of course they don't have to be perfect. There's a what?
A duck.
A duck in our pond? Stop! I have to go look at the duck. There's a duck! Oh my God, there's a duck. It's a duck on the pond. I can't zoom in anymore. But he keeps diving under. He's probably eating my fish. There he is. I'm zoomed in as much as possible. What color is he?
I'd guess it's a
cute. All right, back to tortillas. See, Michael has binoculars. Are the crows mad there's a duck on the pond? Oh, hi, Piper. Hi, you.
Don't fall off.
All right, back in I go. All right, you would think I never see wildlife, but a duck on the pond is awesome. Okay, don't leave your dough sitting out like I did. I was only gone for like 2 minutes. But you'll want to keep your dough in your bowl. So I'm putting the balls in the bowl and putting the lid back on it, okay? So what you'll want to do is just work with 2 at a time. Now I have a skillet, I have it on 5 right now. Of course, your stove will be different. Of course, the pressure cooker is gonna go off and make a lot of noise now, but that's dinner, okay? So you form it into a ball and press it. And this rolling pin, my friend Lorraine made this. Isn't that cool? And sent it to me. So you'll want to just roll it a little bit because you want to relax the gluten. If you try to roll this thing out to a nice thin thinness, I guess is the word. If you try to do that the first time, it's not going to work. It's going to be really hard. So I'm going to roll this one out, the second one. I guess I can move this bowl so you can see what I'm doing. And it should not stick. So even though it's sticking to the rolling pin, it doesn't leave anything behind. And that is the nice part about putting oil in it. But even if you don't put the oil in it, it still should not stick. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go back to the first one. And now you will see that this will start rolling out nice and thin. Maybe. Having a little trouble today. So you start in the middle and roll out. There we go. Now it's working. Sometimes it just takes a second. Start in the middle and roll out. I was forgetting my own rule. Okay. Don't worry about it being pretty and round. Sometimes I can get them pretty and round, but I'm really hungry, so I don't care. So I'm gonna keep rolling that one out. Now I'm gonna turn this down to 4. I don't want it quite so hot. I just wanted to make sure it was hot. For some reason, my first one never makes well. So maybe I heated up my skillet long enough. All right, so now it's almost see-through. And you put it in the pan. And while that one is cooking, I don't have a set time, maybe a minute on the first side. Go ahead and release the gluten from the next one and let it rest for a minute. And go ahead and roll out your other one. The longer it rests, the easier it'll be to roll. And then I am going to zoom in on the cooking. All right, you can see that it's starting to poof up. Sometimes it poofs up more. It's kind of the luck of the draw sometimes. Oops, I'm gonna flip it over. And cook it for a couple of seconds on that side. As long as you get some poofing, you're good. It doesn't have to blow up. And I'll turn it over on the other side and then put it back. And then sometimes that makes it poof up a little bit more. But that's all you do. You just roll them out. Put them in the pan. There's no oil in the pan. It cooks like that. Keep it on a warming tray covered with a towel, and we'll look at the final tortillas in a second. All right, tortillas are done. They're actually very quick to make. I promise you, you will not eat store-bought ones after you've eaten these. They're so good. And we're about to have mango salsa, beans, and tortillas for dinner. Wish you were here. I'd feed you too. All right, see you later.